Arlecchino is one of the most unique characters introduced in Genshin Impact. She has a mechanic that no other character has. She can't heal. In other words, Arlecchino don't need no man, or woman for that matter, because she heals herself. Well, let's talk about who can support Daddy. Any information related to Arlecchino in this video is purely speculative and for discussion purposes only. So there are some concerns with Arlecchino, mainly being the fact that she can only heal herself and she has no interruption resistance. Besides that, she will function as a standard Pyro DPS. She requires you to pay a lot more attention over Hu Tao, Diluc, and Yoimiya because to maximize her buff, she requires a precise rotation. With practice, you will get used to it, however. So let's go over how her rotation will work so that you have a better idea how she will function in a few teams. So basically, you will want to start combat with Arlecchino's skill. And keep in mind that Arlecchino's skill is not something you want to spam. When you start combat, you will always start with Arlecchino's skill. After the initial skill, you will swap off of Arlecchino and use your other character's buff. When you swap back to Arlecchino, you do not want to use your skill. Doing so will reset all of the prep work that you've set up. In the time that you were off field, her gauge was building, and using a charge attack will increase this gauge and give you that pyro infusion. Doing that charge attack will basically give her a full gauge, and if you used her burst, it'll be even higher. Once you've done so, you can begin reaping. Once your party members' buffs have run out, this is where you'll want to use her E, which will heal you anywhere between 30% and 70% of her full HP, depending on how much gauge she still has. You will see the gauge as a red bar on Arlecchino's health bar, so that's actually great when you're in combat, so you know just how much of that gauge that you have. If you do this correctly, you should be able to keep her Pyro Infusion up indefinitely. You only want to pop her E after she's done with her normal attack string and you're ready to buff again, or in an emergency to heal. The reason for this is, you will lose all of her gauge and heal, and you'll be unable to deal any Pyro damage. Her burst will also let you increase that gauge, so keep that in mind. I know this doesn't make a whole lot of sense because this isn't a first-hand perspective, but this will set up the main reason why Arlecchino teams are a bit complicated. Despite having a healer, Arlecchino will not heal, so teams like Farina and Jean or Cloud Retainer are much harder to justify. Without any healing or damage mitigation, Arlecchino can only heal once per rotation. This may feel extremely uncomfortable for most players. If you happen to get hit at the start of the rotation, Arlecchino's charge up time will be wasted because you will clear the accumulated gauge to heal instead of doing damage. So damage mitigation might be very important for Arlecchino. And if you are not particularly skilled at the game and are able to dodge all the time, or at least 50% of the time, you may run into trouble. In normal content, she will perform fine in any team, but to beat the Abyss, she will really appreciate some damage mitigation. Now, before we talk about this team, if you're a skilled player who will not get murdered when playing normally, and can properly time your skill cast to heal once per rotation, then you're not going to need much damage mitigation. That one heal from Arlecchino should be more than enough. But, if you're immortal, then damage mitigation may be important. With that being said, let's run through her traditional teams. Firstly, Vape. Wow, surprise, right? And Vape is going to work wonderfully. The thing is, if you're not using Xingqiu for damage mitigation and you're using someone like Yelan, you may want to use Zhongli or Dia. She can also use Toma, so that's a great option. With a Shielder though, she won't be able to reach her maximum potential. It may be a requirement, however, because she will get knocked around or just straight up die against more aggressive bosses. Farina is not the best option for her either because she's already going to have issues keeping her HP high, and she'll basically always be at 50% HP, but Farina is definitely viable if you do bring a party-wide healer. You see, Arlecchino will still be able to heal herself to max as long as you're not taking too much damage. You can run her in a Farina Yelan Jean comp, you just need to be careful to not let Arlecchino get hit too often. As for Hydro characters, Xingqiu and Yelan are her best friends. You can definitely run them together along with Bennett and you'll do perfectly fine. She will get a ton of damage percent from her kit, so Bennett is her best option. Her artifact set as well gives a ton of damage percent. The normal Xingqiu Kazuha Bennett comp will work great, as you will get the damage mitigation from Xingqiu and you'll be able to really buff her with Kazuha and Bennett. Overload with Chevreuse will be another popular option. Beta will work greatly as damage mitigation and interruption resistance is also in this team with Beta. With all of the talk about damage mitigation, she is one of the few characters who can utilize Chiori. Zhongli and Chiori will make a great core and you can run them alongside Xingqiu or Yelan. This team will be very comfy and capable of clearing the abyss. It won't dish out the most damage, but it will work, especially if you hyper-focus into Arlecchino's damage. Now, Mono Pyro is always an option, but Arlecchino has way better ways to play her, but it is on the table. And lastly, Virgin. She's a very good Virgin character because she has a lot of pyro applications, but she also gets a lot of damage percent, which is going to really help with her vape. It won't be completely wasted because she can still proc Virgin very reliably, and you may not even fully have to build into EM. You can do kind of a split build. Not her best team by any means, but a welcome addition. So that's a rundown of Arlecchino's team options. Melt won't be that good because she does apply a lot of pyro, but she can nuke her burst pretty easily in these setups, and after that it will mostly be the cryo characters melting. Now, Lila and a Hydro character may actually be a good option because you'll either be vaping or melting. Unlike the other pyro characters like Diluc, Dia, and Gaming, Arlecchino will be able to melt the enemies instead of shattering them, since she's a polearm user. This might be a very fun team to try with Arlecchino. So that's the rundown on suitable teams for her. This is very early and a lot can change, but she will mostly function like a normal pyro DPS with a few caveats. Her gameplay will be the most impressive part about her, honestly, but I don't see her dethroning Hu Tao at this stage. She can compete with Hu Tao and her damage on paper is very similar, but Hu Tao has the amazing utility of Farina with no caveats, and she can heal from outside sources so you don't need to waste a party slot on a shielder. Still here? Great. Only about 4% of those who watch my videos are subscribed. Father is going to disapprove of you not hitting that subscribe button, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button and I will appease you with more content from Father. Until next time, Enigma out.